morning, everyone. There we go. Welcome to our Michaelmas assembly. One of the things I learned when I moved from New York is if you want to live in Colorado, you can't be a sissy. It's just a few days ago when we had the rose ceremony, and we were all sitting in the hot sun, the summer sun, and we had a lovely beginning to our school year. And now here we are a month later, and it's snowing, and now the first graders have had their first month in school. They have more evidence than ever that they have the greatest teacher in the whole world. Of course, all you other students are not left out. You also have the greatest teacher in the whole world. For you. And the 12th graders that were so important a part of that rose ceremony, they have now finished their senior solos, which we will hear more about today. And they are now applying to colleges. And this time next year, they will be in them. So a lot has happened in the last month, more than just changes in the weather. So I'll say a little bit. What I think it's important in a Michaelmas assembly that we say something about what Michaelmas is, especially for new families, grandparents, and new children in the school. And we'll do that a little bit later. But before we do, I would like to welcome some very special guests, and I would ask them if they would be willing to stand up for a moment so we can acknowledge them. We have, and I'm going to list a few groups, we have the grandparents who have joined us, so please stand up. And if you wouldn't mind, stay standing just for a moment. We have alumni parents who are here, so if you would join them, and alumni students and new families in the school, if you would stand up as well. Welcome back and welcome. So now we will all sing together, led by our new singing teacher, Ben Seidman. The high school orchestra will play through Wind in the Trees first, and then we'll join in. And now the second grade will perform for us. And now the third grade will be coming up to perform a harvest song and a dance led by their teacher, Mr. Johansson.
We'd like to share a harvest song today with everyone.
What we are
And now the 5th grade will perform a poem for us, led by their teacher, Jan Miller.
About how they were mysteriously defeated without even going into battle. The Destruction of Sennacherib by Lord Byron.
The Assyrian came down like the wolf on the fold, and his cohorts were gleaming in purple and gold, and the sheen of their spears was like stars on the sea, when the blue wave flows nightly on deep Galilee. Like the leaves of the forest when summer is green, that host with their banners at sunset were seen. Like the leaves of the forest when autumn hath blown, that host on the morrow lay withered and strown. For the angel of death spread his wings on the blast, and breathed in the face of the foe as he passed. And the eyes of the sleepers waxed deadly and chill, and their hearts but once heaved and forever grew still. And there lay the steed with his nostrils all wide, but through it there rolled not the breath of his pride. And the foam of his gasping lay white on the turf, and cooled as the spray of the rock-beating surf. And there lay the rider, distorted and pale, with the dew on his brow and the rust on his mail. And the tents were all silent, the banners alone, the lances unlifted, the trumpets unblown. And the widows of Azure are loud in their wail, and the idols are broken, the temple of Baal. And the might of the Gentile, unsmoked by the sword, hath melted like snow in the glance of the Lord.
And now we will begin the food procession. The 7th graders will come up and tell us a few words about what they've been doing and where it came from. And then from grades 1 on, they will bring up their offerings.
Hello, my name is Gareth, and for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been collecting food for EFA, and we do that yearly. So EFA is...
Okay, I'm Sydney. EFA is a nonprofit organization that helps those in our community who's with immediate needs for food, shelter, and other basic necessities. Their vision is building a more caring community and a better future for those families in crisis.
I'm Emma, and the 7th grade class would like to thank everyone in the community for contributing food to the annual 7th grade food drive. Congratulations to the 3rd grade. You all gave us the most food out of everyone. Some of the things everyone gave us were canned foods such as tuna, beans, soup, macaroni and cheese, diapers, toilet paper, and many other things that will surely help benefit people in the area who are in need. So thank you everybody for contributing, and we appreciate your generosity and kindness. Thank you.
And now the high school orchestra will play 2 songs. The first one is called The Star of the County Down, and the second Irish tune will be The Full Rigged Ship.
Good morning, I'm Mr. Deal. I teach in the high school, and I'm here to introduce high school students who will speak about Project Week. Project Week has a Michaelic impulse, and the impulse is kind of twofold. There's a part of being Michaelic that's going out into the world, doing community service, and there's a part of Michaelic that's going inward and looking at yourself, and maybe at things you're not so that maybe you haven't looked at before in yourself, I should say, and seeing what strengths you have and what you can work on. So in grades 9 through 11, the impulse is to definitely go out in the world. 9th grade, the emphasis is on the earth. 10th grade on cultural studies. 11th grade on the environment. And then the seniors have more of an inward journey as they go on the solos. So I'd like to have the high school students who are going to speak about their experiences come on up, if you would. And you can all come up here. Let's give it up. We'll start with 9th grade. And if the high school students would introduce themselves, please. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Sarah Rose Gershman, and I am a freshman. This year we had a whole different experience as this was our first project week. We went to Crescent Farm, a biodynamic farm in Fort Collins. It was their first year on the land, so they appreciated our hard work. We were split up into groups, and each group had a different job. In the morning at 7 a.m., we went to feed the animals, weed, or help cook breakfast. Between breakfast and lunch, we had different jobs. Some of us helped make an adventure playground for a group of families who come to the farm every week to build community. The kids loved playing and climbing in the playground. The farmers had a new chicken coop this year, so we were fortunate enough to get to decorate it and make it look nicer. Other jobs included more weeding, way more weeding, and cleaning up the farm. One group cleaned out the barn so they could improve their farm store. On Thursday, a group of 75 first graders came to learn about where their food comes from. Each of us had a task to either talk or lead the groups around the farm. The weather was beautiful until Tuesday night when it started to rain. We put some stuff in the cars and some people slept in the stables. Most of the tents were soaked, and fortunately, the farmers let us sleep in the barn. That night, we sat in a circle and talked about each senior. We knew they were on their own and getting really wet, and we thought about how we would feel on our solos in 3 years. The weather got better, and we finished strong. Apart from the hard work, we had fun learning to drive, jumping on the trampoline, and eating Claude's amazing food.
I'm Garrett Johnston. In my class, the 10th grade, spent Project Week in New Mexico at the Taos Pueblos doing community service in the tribal community. We volunteered at the Senior Center, the Head Start Preschool, and helped at a family health fair. We also did water testing of the creek with some of the tribal biologists and toured the ancient Pueblo buildings. We built a form for a concrete sidewalk and met with the lieutenant governor of the Pueblo, who gave us a presentation on his people. I'd like to speak a little bit about my personal experience working at the Head Start Preschool and at the family health fair. So at the health fair, we had 10 students from Shining Mountain working, and our job was to take these families and their child through 14 different medical stations. There was auditory testing, visual testing, immunizations, dental work, and various other medical stations like that. Each student took several families through all 14 stations. Some families took just 30 or 45 minutes to get through all the stations. Other families took more like 2 hours. I also worked at the Head Start Preschool. So I worked with the 4 and 5-year-old kids along with one of my classmates, Zeke. When we first got there, the kids were doing some sort of arts and crafts, but pretty soon we all went outside for recess. So almost as soon as we got outside for recess, all the kids decided that I was the monster. There were probably 10 or 15 kids out there, and all of them wanted to be chased. If I didn't chase one of these kids, he or she might get upset with me, so I kind of had to figure out how to chase all these kids at once. When recess finally ended, we went back into the classroom where the kids did some more arts and crafts, but pretty soon it was time for nap time. So I was kind of put in charge of making sure 3 of these kids went to sleep, 2 girls and 1 boy. These 2 girls, they had me read books to them, and they just made me keep reading to them, and they just wouldn't let me stop reading to them. The boy, he was playing with his shoe. I don't really know what was wrong with his shoe, but he was playing with his shoe for a good, 10 or 15 minutes. Finally, the teacher came over, and she told me that I needed to stop reading books to these two girls, and that the 2 girls needed to try to go to sleep. And she went over and talked to the boy and told the boy that he needed to try to go to sleep too. She also told me that I could try rubbing the backs of these kids, and that might help put them to sleep. So I started rubbing the backs of the 2 girls, and they went to sleep almost as soon as I started rubbing their backs. But for the boy, he didn't really want me to rub his back. He just kind of kept playing with his sheets and anything he could get his hands on. I was relieved from the job the boy ever did fall asleep. So, coming into this class trip, our class had 3 main goals. The first goal was to work hard and give our best attention to the Taos community. The second goal was to be socially inclusive in our group. The third goal was to be mindful about the following quote about modern Indian life. It is hard being an Indian. You have to live 3 lives: the traditional one, the survival one, and the modern world that keeps coming at you all the time. I believe that our class was successful in achieving these 3 goals, and the 10th grade would like to thank the Taos Waldorf School for allowing us to come and camp at their school.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gabe Wayman, and I am in the 11th grade. Every project week is different and unique in their own way, and this year was no exception. The 11th grade went to Vagabond Ranch with the intention to maintain and build various trails, both public and private. The first fingers of fall had arrived, plus a distinct change in climate. We volunteered for the company Contour Logic, going continually strong, never becoming lethargic. Over 1,600 feet of trail was built, some old and some new, shaping and scraping, with plenty of laughter too. There's something so satisfying in being able to look at the physical product of your labor, our endeavor together, and later coming back to ride them despite the harsh weather. Some of us saw moose, or to others, meese. Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. I thought you think you might have mistaken that beast. We hiked to Lost Lake after all work was done, and swam in the frigid water which reflected the sun. But don't think this trip was filled with excessive slacking. It was also filled with work, like some extreme wood stacking. Unfortunately, it was hard to stay out of harm's way, as Noah took on some pain, but it didn't let it ruin his day. Stacking wood was good, but perhaps best of all, lying down next to a fire in the clutches of fall, in the company of people with the Waldorf garnered ability to stand proud, honest, and tall.
Hello, most of you know me, but for those who don't, I'm Andrew Bremner, and this is my 13th year here at Shining Mountain. So the senior trip is a little different from the others. They go out and do community service, and we go in and spend 2 days by ourselves. We went to Veda View, Wyoming, and that's about 2.5 hours north of here. And we left civilization and hiked into our base camp. Our base camp was on a hill, and we stayed at our base camp that night and had a nice dinner and went to sleep that night. The next morning, we gathered all of our necessary things and hiked across the valley and into a forest of aspen trees and pine trees, where we split up and spent our 2 days alone in pure solitude. We were told to go off by ourselves and spend 2 days alone, but we were never really told what to do at that time. So I'd spent a lot of time trying to catch flies and watching shadows move, but there was a lot of just sitting and thinking. The first day was beautiful, very sunny, and lots of shadows to watch. But the challenge came the next day when it began to rain at about noon. It rained that entire day, and the entire night, and the entire next day. And luckily enough, I was able to stay dry, enough, I guess. But some of my classmates weren't so lucky. And on my solo, there was the option to fast. And I chose to do so for the entire solo, which turned out to be about 63 hours without food. It was a long 63 hours, and the power bar I ate on the way back to camp was the best thing I've ever eaten. Once I was back in Boulder, I realized I'm grateful for 2 things: my comfortable bed and being able to go to a school that allows me to have experiences like this. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nicholas Hall, and I'd like everyone to do a favor for me. Can you all look at that wall right now? Can you all look at me now? Look up. Look at me. Look that way. Now back at me. Look to my left. My other left. That way. That's my right. You all may be wondering why I did that. For me, it was completely irrelevant, but for all of you guys, it was completely important. So when you guys did all that, you noticed change pretty much. When you look that way and back at me, you guys changed. When you look up and back at me, you guys changed again. When you look that way and back at me, you guys changed. This whole trip where I was on, I was constantly changing. I noticed every tiny detail on my solo, on the ground, every tiny detail, the rocks, every tiny detail. And I noticed whenever I looked away and back at the rocks, there was change happening. So I just wanted to let you guys know that, because some of you are probably thinking, that was funny, or this guy's crazy. But this is a Waldorf school, so it's okay. Okay, so during my solos, the first day I really thought about my past and what I really regretted. There were some big regrets, and there were some little regrets. One of the little regrets was I forgot to feed my rabbit, and I felt bad about it. So I was kind of worried that something might have happened, but it was okay. My bigger regrets was I actually don't want to talk about that. Never mind. So also during the first day, for comfort, I sang to myself, and I know many of my classmates sang to themselves too. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. And I actually heard Connor off in the distance sing to himself. But that was mainly for comfort. The second day, however, was quite hectic because of the rain. I knew it was going to rain before it rained, because I had the mother's instinct of, oh yeah, it's gonna rain, let's go inside. So I went inside my tent, got all warm and dry, and started raining, and everything in my tent started getting wet. And I started saying, I need to think positive. I need to think really positive. So I thought about the Waldorf high school equivalencies of books, which is plays. So I thought about Harry Potter and what happened in each book, and that got my mind off of the rain. And I actually slept really well that night, and I think I was the only one that slept well that night out of everyone else. So I had a big epiphany, and one of them was that I realized that we are constantly changing. Almost every second we are constantly changing. You might have changed your opinion about me, I might have changed my opinion about everyone else, but we are constantly changing. My other epiphany was that I needed to redeem myself, and I'm proud to say that I actually did that over the past few weeks. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, high school students. And I can say, since I was on that senior trip, that there was a lot of Michaelmas courage that took place out there. I was in a tent that had a bottom and a fly, and I could zip it closed. And inside that tent, during those 16, 18 hours that it was raining, I kept thinking about how much I would like to be home, especially when I noticed that my tent was leaking. But the whole time I thought to myself, this is like being in a house compared to what the 12th graders are doing, because they had a little tarp, not much bigger than the size of their sleeping bags. And the idea was they would be in touch with the elements, and they certainly were in touch with the elements during that time, more than we imagined. And I have to say I was very impressed that they could do that. So a few words about Michaelmas. And what does it mean when we keep using the expression Michaelic? In many other parts of the world, this is a more familiar day, it's a more familiar season, because Michaelmas is a time of year, it's not just a day. And it really harkens back to days when when the sun began to disappear from the sky and the days began to get shorter, real fears came up in people, because in the days before grocery stores and refrigerators, people didn't know if they would have enough food to survive through the winter. And they didn't know if they had enough fuel to stay warm until the sun returned to the sky. So this was a season that called up all the courage that people had, and community was a big part of helping them get through that. Coming together in gatherings like this with people that you love, because the warmth of soul is also a way to steel oneself against the cold that comes in that time of year. And then we have the story of St. Michael and of the conquering of the dragon. Now today we look back and say, what could that dragon have been? What kind of courage would it take to fight a dragon for the sake of a village? And it's hard to put ourselves in that place, because we don't worry about whether we'll have enough food. We don't worry about a dragon on the other side of the foothills that's going to come and get us. And we don't really worry about how much heat we will have this winter. We've moved beyond that. But have we conquered the dragon once and for all? What kind of dragons are we living with these days? They haven't gone away at all. In some ways, it's much easier to face a dragon that you can see than the dragon that you don't see, and the dragon that lives inside of you. And I thought I would just give a couple of examples of the kinds of dragons that we face every day in our lives. As students in the school, we're constantly dealing with the difficulties of going to a school with other people and living with other people and getting to know new friends, having our friends come and go, and the seasons and all the changes, as Nick was talking about, that are part of our lives. And also, we notice that it's hard to really appreciate the people around us. I could give the example of every day I face a challenge when I'm driving to school and I'm driving home from school. There's a place where I'm driving in my car and I merge into traffic with a larger road and cars going quickly. And I get a little signal that in the mornings of what my day is going to be like, as to what happens at that moment when I try to merge into fast traffic. Those of you who are drivers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Will they let me in? And it's a funny moment, because the road is meant to have people come in and join them, but some people, when they see that a car is going to try to pull in front of them, they speed up. They won't let you in. And in fact, they not only won't let you in, they're angry that you even tried. And people will honk at you and sometimes make hand signals that I don't know what they are. But I know that I shouldn't have done whatever it was I was trying to do. But the other side of it is, then that person has some power over me. I have to figure out, do I have the courage, the Michaelic courage, to overcome that moment? And even to forgive that person and to trust that they're in a hurry, they're going somewhere, they don't have time to let me in. But there's nothing so wonderful as when you're trying to come in and you realize the car is slowing down and may even give you a different hand signal which suggests, come on in front of me. And that little gift, the kind of gift we can give each other all the time, makes my day. I come into school and I'm a little happier, and I'm prepared for doing the same thing when I go home and that new merge that's coming. I had an experience last summer in Southern California driving, and any of you that have driven down near San Diego, you know they have 6 lanes of traffic going each direction for about 90 miles between San Diego and Los Angeles. And all of a sudden the traffic will just stop. And you think, well, there must be an accident. All of a sudden the traffic starts again. You drive ahead, no accident. What's happening? And then you can have the experience of driving there where you're trying to change lanes and you experience that same thing again of you put your signal on to change in front of you, change into the next lane, and the car speeds up to not let you in. And I realized after a few days of doing this, no one else was signaling. People were just darting in and out of traffic back and forth because people were in a hurry. They were too busy to let somebody in front of them. And pretty soon I noticed that I also was starting to dart into another lane instead of using the hand signal. But there are those people, those Michaelic souls. They may not call themselves that or even know anything about who Michael is, who they don't care how fast other people are going, how busy other people are. They slow down and they let you in. And those people make our lives better. They make our world a better place. So, how does that apply to Shining Mountain Waldorf School? We also have the choice every day to slow down and help somebody who needs the help or not. A third grader running outside for recess when everyone is charging out into the field who notices one of his friends fall down. Doesn't continue running, but stops. Helps the friend up, even though it means I may be late for the game, may not get on the team that I want to be on. That's Michaelic courage. The middle school student who notices that a friend is absent for a few days and says, "Is there anything I can do to help you catch up? Did you miss some notes? Is there a test coming? We're preparing for it. Can I help you?" Or in the high school, maybe an 11th or 12th grader noticing a new student in the school, or the whole new 9th grade class in the high school, and to take the time to say, "Who are you? And where did you come from? Did you just move here?" Spend some time getting to know that person, having lunch with them maybe, and building bridges within an already fairly tight community. Those things are much harder than we think they are. And it's the momentum of life, even when you're a third grader running out for recess, that carries you along. And yet, it's Michaelic to stop and to take account of where you are and to be aware of the people around you and to try to help them. So those are just a few thoughts about what Michaelmas is and what this season is. The winter is coming. The days are getting shorter. We saw that today. But we can still take that sword and hold it up and let the light shine from Michael's sword in the dark world around us, and not to take that choice of leaving it there. Imagine the Michael story if Michael had just ridden on and decided not to fight the dragon after all because he was too busy. He was going somewhere. Well, there wouldn't be any festival. But thank goodness he did. And we all, I wish you all, Michaelic courage, not in the big things of life, not in conquering dragons, but in those little decisions we make many, many times a day where we can do something to make somebody else's day a lot better instead of carrying on and taking care of our business. And we will finish with the song Michaelmas Time, led by Ben Seidman.